welcome to Corinne's Picks. I'm your host, Corinne Basabe. Today we are very fortunate. We're doing a part two of a series with Mike Berg. He's a prominent, world-renowned artist. His work is in very prominent collections. He has museum credits, and he's had very important commissions internationally. Welcome back to Corinne's Picks.
Well, thank you so much, Corinne. It's nice to be here.
You know, I'm so fascinated by your work. I feel that we're kindred spirits. The last episode, we talked so much that we barely, by a hair, got through all your images. So I'm going to try to control myself this time. I'll let you do, do most of the talking. You know, I've gone to your website, and this show, it's the selfish show. I picked some images that really really inspire me, or I just feel very strongly about. Usually I let the artists pick the paintings and send me the paintings, and we talk about the work in that way. Right. But we're really, this show is really curated by me, and images that I really feel strongly about and really want to explore and talk about deeply.
Wonderful. Yeah, I like that idea very much. I mean, we did talk about that, and you asked me whether I wanted to, be even involved in the selection. I said no. I'd rather have you select the pieces and let them be a surprise. Of course, I know their works because I made them, but still, not to know exactly what is going to pop up. It's going to be fun.
And this episode makes me so happy. I'm going to start with the first images, and it seems strange that I would pick these three images. Mm-hmm. But I want to hear what you have to say about these three and the ideas behind it, because I know there are some big ideas behind these first three. Okay. So let's look at this concept book without words. Can you tell me a little bit about this series?
Oh wow! Well, this in book form. Is it's a show that I did that was called 21 Colors. Now, 21 Colors was a series of prints that I did with Ruth Lingen at Line Press Limited here in New York, and what it was, I actually like a prepared surface. I never just directly work on blank paper, even if it's interesting paper. I usually like to put down some kind of ground. So what I did was I was printing these colors on this handmade paper that Ruth Lingen had made, and I did like 3 in the first day, which they were fairly large, this size,
Actually, can we have the next image that'll make the audience get a better understanding? Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I just did a show of these in Istanbul, of the larger pieces, but as it developed, I was doing the simple colors. You can see here that's the size of the installation that I did at this gallery Adas in Istanbul, and we started out just producing the colors, but each day I would do a different color and we'd pin them to the walls, and Ruth, I was looking at them, I thought these are great, and I was thinking they actually are something in themselves. They don't need any image on top of it. And so we were pinning them up, and then she has a lot of people coming through, and people were looking at these pieces that were pinned to the walls as they were drawing, and they were saying, well, these are really cool. And so we just continued to work, and ultimately we made 21 different colors, the name. And the only thing that I did after that was just to arrange them, because I think it tells a story, and that's what the book without words is. So they are also laid out in that book, and it's the same technique hand printed, hand bound on handmade paper, and the story is the color. You go from one page to the next, and there is I think it has a kind of flow and logic to it, from my point of view. So anyway, that's how that happened.
So I want to talk about two separate things.
Mm-hmm.
You say prepare the surface. Can you, because I'm a painter as well, can you talk a little bit about that? And then I want to talk about pigment.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not just boom, presenting, look, I made a piece of paper, here's a book.
Yeah.
I want to talk about a little bit more about the process.
Oh, the process, it's a unique process. Ruth has been making prints. She was the chief printer for Pace Editions for many years, and she opened her own shop. And she's worked in all kinds of different techniques. But what this was, it's the most basic thing in the world. I was mixing these colors, and it's printer's ink, and the paper itself was beautifully handmade stuff.
But is it vats of paper pulp that has to dry on a screen and you peel it up?
No, these were pre-made paper. This was done. This was done, okay. And all I was doing was mixing the color. I was using a scraper and putting it on, and the edges were very important. I wanted to keep a small edge, just a kind of a frame. But it's all done by hand, so it's slightly irregular, which I love. I'm very analog. I hate completely digital looking work, so it doesn't do, I mean, that's not my thing. But anyway, I'd scrape these out, then we would blot them with, newsprint to absorb as much color as possible, and then we would take rags and we rub them and rub them and rub them. This process was long. We could only do a couple of pieces in a day.
But are you deciding on which I feel like, I don't know if the word pitch has to do with color, but deciding on how are you deciding which degree of color is finished?
Well, once the color, the way it works is that I'm mixing it until I have a color that I really like. And so the printing technique is just laying it down and blotting it.
But are you mixing other colors to make it like the red a little bit more orange? Or
are
you adjusting it like that?
Yeah, and it's very specific. We've taken exact measurements of what particular color so that we could reproduce it, so that they, once the color was done, we have a chart, it's so much of this color, so much of that color. And sometimes there might be 5 or 6 different colors all mixed in it, plus some kind of medium sometimes to extend it, make it a little bit more translucent. But once the color is mixed, then it's done. Then it's the process of laying it out and essentially making it matte, just making it matte. I didn't want any kind of reflectiveness in it at all. Okay,
so we're going to go to the next picture because your work for me, I feel it's about ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Ideas that make people pause and have to sit with an idea that seems small, but is very large idea, very profound. So tell us a little bit about the origin of this piece and the idea behind it.
You put this up on the first time I was here, and I lied to you. I said that I'd used a straw to make that, and then when I got home, I was thinking, well, that's not true. I do paintings with straw, but it wouldn't hold enough ink. So this was some kind of an ink pen, and it had a certain kind of width of tip, and essentially I'm just whirling it around and creating these kinds of balls of yarn, clouds. I mean, it's really about the composition and the density. Some of them are much more, intensely black. Some of them are more open, And I can remember afterwards, when I got home, that piece I did when we were in Valencia. Or no, no, I'm lying. We were in Spain. Where was it? It was Sevilla. We were in Sevilla, and I really, when I'm traveling, we travel quite a lot, and we see a lot. But I also have this kind of desire to make work all the time. I hate to, if I go for a place for a whole week, I still would want to make some work. So I did, I don't know, 7 or 8, works on paper while we were on that trip. So.
But we've talked about the creative process. We're both painters, and I think I like the idea that you presented like about an hour ago about freeing oneself. And I think the reason why I love these particular drawings are because for me, I've struggled to be freer creatively. And we talked about children's art and how they have an advantage over us in terms of just creating with the abandon. And I see these free floating, whirls and swirls. I mean, it just makes me feel so good. I just love this image so much. Because to me, I don't feel like it's about anything in particular. It just feels free.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I feel like really so much the same. I really do. And it took me years to become the artist that I have become. And part of it, a large part of it, is just getting rid of okay, a real artist does this and it should do that, and it's got to have meaning and weight and blah, blah, blah. My feeling about that is I'm going to do it. If I like it, it lives. If it doesn't, usually what I'll do is I'll just work over it or something else. But I don't like the idea of, laboring over a piece. I just really have no interest in that. And I mean, I love the work, for example, of Cy Twombly, where he just, and yeah, that's right, we talked about him before. Yeah, no, his work is deep, but it's also light in a way, I mean? And so this is another one, and I'm just messing around. The space is a little bit similar, but there's the color contrast, and it's, as you were saying, it's just flowing. So sometimes I'm drawing sort of horizontally. Sometimes I'm drawing vertically. Sometimes just whirling around and around. And if at the end, if I like it, I'll say, okay, I'll keep it. But there's in terms of investment, like heavy investment, there is none there, and that's best. I mean, I do, big sculptures and stuff like that where the process is very, very long, but usually conceptually, the idea isn't laborious, isn't.
So we're going to go to a 2-minute commercial break, but I want to stay on this subject. I really want to, because I do have a response to what you just said.
Okay.
So we'll be right back.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Welcome back to Corinne's Picks. I'm your host, Corinne Basabe. We've been talking to the brilliant Mike Berg. One of my favorite interviews is with this man. I enjoy his work so much. I think before the commercial break, we were talking about your, I guess, would you call it line art?
Yeah, I guess. I've
Well, how
never
would
really
that-
thought about characterizing. I mean, they're ink drawings, so
Right.
it's ink drawing is a core of my work. Sometimes with a brush, sometimes with a pencil or a pen, you know. Yeah, it's just, yeah.
Well, you were talking about Cy Twombly, and you know, people would look at my work. I was selling on West Broadway in Soho. There used to be an art scene there on Saturday and Sundays where artists would just set up these huge displays on the street and just sell the art directly to the public.
Mm-hmm.
And I was one of them for a few years. And people would compare some of I was doing street art with scribble, scrabble, writing, painting, you know, all kind of free art. And people would compare my art with some of them with Cy Twombly, and I didn't realize that I was actually struggling until I saw his work. I realized that the issue I was having was trying to free myself,
Mm-hmm.
just trying to minimize and just be freer.
Right.
So when I met you, it was really odd that, you know, I recognized in your art immediately where I was right now, because the first image we saw, I was starting to create that scribble on a smaller scale, and I didn't even know what I was doing or why I was doing it. I just know that it was something that took me probably 40 years to get to that point. So it wasn't, it looks like a scribble scrabble, but it's not. It took me like almost 40 years or 30 years to be able to do that.
It's like it takes years to give yourself license to do it. You know, it's hard to be an artist, and it's hard to figure out. You know, and of course every artist has a different trajectory. Some people, it just happens. I was always an artist. Always. But there were periods of my art that I don't want to even look at, so, but one image that's still etched so deeply in my mind was a piece that I did. It was a still life, a basket with a pineapple and a banana and some other fruit, and I made it in like third grade, and at that time, I never really liked school, not until I got into college. I just was not. It wasn't the thing that moved me. But anyway, in my third grade class, in this tiny little school, there were the normal academic classes, and then the reading, math, blah blah blah. One kid per day was given freedom to go sit in a corner and make art. Just one kid, and they had very simple supplies, and so I think mostly it was just crayons. But I did this drawing of this still life, and I still remember. I can see it vividly in my mind. And when I was sitting there making it, I was thinking, well, I loved it. A lot of the kids didn't, when they had the opportunity to do it, didn't even want to do it. And I thought, why would anybody rather sit in class and do the normal class when they could actually sit down and make something, make some art? I thought it was just fabulous. I loved it. So anyway.
Yeah, we have so many images left. So I'm going to really, I'm going to stop myself now from talking so much and let you actually talk about some of these pieces, because I'm determined to get through them.
Okay. So this was an ink drawing that I did flat, and it was originally, was about 30 inches wide. Uh, and it was photo etched on bronze. Uh, so it was a wall piece, and I liked it very much. But then I thought, I really like the idea of moving into 3 dimensions. One of the first sculptures where I started to do that. And so what I did was I took it and I rolled it, and there was some sort of, things that I had to do to make it all come together, where the 2 sides, would meet. But this is quite, well, it's not giant, but it's about 4.5 feet tall, I think.
Where is this right now?
Well, I did it in a series. I have, there was one that I made in Istanbul that was bought, and actually my fabricator called me one time. He said, "Hey, Mike, guess what? Your piece is in this dizi." They call them dizi. It's, like soap opera. Whoever had bought it had used it as a set piece. And I've actually had several anyway, of my large sculptures that were bought by Turkish collectors that ended up in sets for television programs and stuff. Anyway, this is the same. This was started as an ink drawing. It also was done in bronze, tiny. It was, about 10 inches high. This is about 5 feet tall. This is a different technique. It's the image is exactly the same, but it's laser cut in steel. So, and you can see, as we were talking before, these are ink drawings. You can see that they're ink drawings. Same deal. This one, I don't think I ever made this one as a small piece. It was always a large steel piece, and it's, when I say large, it's about 4 feet tall. So, now this is also a photo etched bronze piece. It's about 12 by 12 square, and anyway.
What does photo etching mean?
Well, what it means is that I do the ink drawing, and then it's photographed, and then the photograph is transferred to a plate in a photographic process, and then it's run through an acid bath that burns all of the metal away that you don't want. So it just leaves.
It's hard for me to. How did you draw that?
Well, what it is actually quite simple. It's just a whole series of circles, but I wanted, my intention was to make it something that held together. So after I'd drawn the circles, then I started drawing lines to connect the circles, so that when it ran through the acid bath, that it wouldn't all completely just fall apart. So everything, anything that's black, is connected to some other something or other to hold it. So,
when I first saw it, it reminded me of, poured resin. I almost didn't realize it was a drawing.
Yeah, no, it was just a drawing, but I like the idea of, making something in one medium and then presenting it in another one. So this was one of the very first ones I ever did. So I would say 30 years ago. Maybe 25 years, 30 years ago.
We have 2 minutes left. I love this piece. We talked about this piece briefly last time.
Yeah, this is what I was, as a concept, the idea was to make something, it's 3 meters tall, okay? So what I did was that it starts on the, which is 1 meter wide and 1 meter deep, and divided. So it's 6. There are 6 of those little cubes. So there's 6 times 6, and then 36, and then it's 5 times 5 is 25, so on, all the way up to the very top piece, which is 1 meter. It's a 1 meter cube by itself. The one below it is, so it goes 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it's made of what is called meche. I think it's an African hardwood of some sort. And it's a simple concept, but I call it a pyramid cube. Pyramid in the sense that it's going up, but it's they're cubic forms. So.
1 minute left, so let's get some more images.
Oh boy, this is a whole other realm of my work. This is a piece that I did. I started with a drawing, and then I assigned a color to each line, and the color of each line is determined by chance. So, in other words, I would if you look at the central piece, then you see that little colorful rectangle. Those are that's wool, and I embroidered this sculpture, or not sculpture, but wall piece. It's probably about 5 or 6 feet wide, and it's just colored, lined, and embroidered. But the color selection is all done by chance, which is something that I do quite often too. I like the idea of working with chance because it takes it out of your head. It's like, you know, in a way it's a kind of blind liberation, you know? It's like, you know, oh, I did this color, well, maybe I need to do that color. Well, I don't know. This way it just goes. And I don't know what I'm going to get it until it's done.
Well, thank you so much for being willing to come back
all
the way from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And, you know, unfortunately, we almost got through all the images, but thank you for being on Corinne's Picks, and we have to do it again. We'll have to do a part 3 now.
Well, I enjoy it so much. I really do. I would love to come back. Thank you, Corinne.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.